Good evening, folks. This is Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project on Wednesday, January 24th, 10:01 p.m. Mountain Time 2018, bringing you a grand solar minimum update. You're looking at solar activity for the last 1,000 years. And you can clearly see that solar activity is the clear driver of Earth's climate. Here's the fall of Rome. This is the spike here that almost killed the Jamestown colonists that we talked about. Luckily, that retracted, and here's our nice warm modern maximum we've been living in that they call global warming. And here's the forecast solar minimum chart. We'll get to that. One of the worst winters on record. What's next? South Jersey marked the halfway point of winter just this week with near top of the chart snowfall and a 2-week bitterly long stretch of weather in the rearview mirror. What will the next few weeks bring? I'll tell you what it's going to bring. We're going to show you the forecast. Look at how concerned this woman is. She should be very concerned if she checked the GFS model. Guys, you're looking at the GFS 2-meter air temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. Unfortunately, we're going to be looking at it in Fahrenheit because this is North America. This is tomorrow morning. And I want you to draw your eyes to this red line. That's the freeze line. Here I'll be freezing my ass off at 10 degrees in the morning. And let's just slowly move this through. You're going to see the center of the country is nice and mild through the 26th. While it stays cold here in the Rockies. A little bit of coolness there in the Appalachians, which would be normal in the winter, below freezing. And then here comes the polar vortex on the 28th. Notice to the north, minus 20 area here, pushing south on the 28th. It's getting chilly in Florida. Down to 60 for the high on the 29th. Minus 5 in Minnesota. And look at the highs in Florida by the 30th. 59 degrees in the center of the state. 49 in North Florida for the high. And this polar vortex is going to push down into the East Coast, bringing teens all the way down into the Appalachians. Single digits up into the Northeast here for highs. January 30th, look at that. 44 degrees in Central Florida. 47 degrees in Southern Florida. Just like I predicted at the end of the month. So look at that. They're going to have freeze warnings all the way down to the Panhandle here on the 30th. And the 31st, it's 52 in South Florida. 49 in South Florida. And those freeze areas in northern Florida will be extended. Then there's a quick respite. It warms up. But it's going to stay cool down there. And then there you got the heat back on February 1st. But this polar vortex is going to stay up here. And watch what happens as we go towards the Super Bowl. Oh, it is going to penetrate all the way down to the center of the country here. The freeze line is going to go all the way down through Arkansas. And again, on the 3rd, freezes down all the way here through Georgia and Alabama. And further south on the 3rd. Look at this negative 20 zone dipping into the U.S. here. Heads up, Minnesota. And this is the day before Super Bowl. Everyone's going to get to this state here the day before Super Bowl. The high's minus 7 here, Fahrenheit. It's going to warm up to minus 1 in the afternoon and go back down to minus 9 Super Bowl morning. So you're looking for minus 9 with a high of minus 5 for Super Bowl. And that's a heads up for all you idiots paying $3,000 to sit in that. Super boom for all the people that going out there. Okay, those are the temperature models that are coming out all the way to Super Bowl. I promised a few people I'd show you that. Look at the weather. We've got a massive storm coming in right now as we speak, dumping more snow into this area, which is going to receive upwards of 100 feet of snow by the end of the winter up here in British Columbia. Wait until you see what they're going to get. So let's just run it through on the 28th. Little mild snow event, and then this little snow bomb here in New England on the 30th. So we're looking at a very high snowfall total in Maine on the 30th. Boston, you're going to get into the action on the 29th, and then snow on the 30th. North Jersey, we'll see what happens with the storm as it develops. Another high-low pressure is going to come across the Canadian Shield during the end of the month and dump snow all the way across Canada for you people looking for snow. There it is. It's going to be snowing all across Canada all the way to February 1st. From January 30th to February 1st, snow moves across the Canadian Shield. Small clipper develops here on February 1st. That's going to extend all the way up to from Halifax all the way down to Texas with a snow line, with heavy snows in the south. Now wait till you see this model. Look at how heavy the snow is down here in Tennessee, in North Carolina, in the mountains. You're looking Asheville, you're going to get crushed on this one. So Asheville's going to be breaking records, and then we're talking a huge snow event, atmospheric compression potentially all the way from Maine down through the Northeast. Should be an interesting storm, and that's February 2nd through the 3rd. How that develops. That is a dark blue zone. We're going to have some icing. It'll be interesting. And then it's just going to continue. There's another clipper behind it with more snow covering the region. And another snowstorm here by February 5th. It's going to dip all the way down into Texas again. There you go. Texas, Arkansas. And this should be an epic ice storm again for you guys. And this is way out on the model with another northern clipper covering Canada and snow again. So the snow models go all the way out to the 8th. February 8th, they're showing snow for 4,000 or 5,000 miles across the entire northern tier. And just like it's predicted with heavy moisture, it's going to continue to dump through the 9th. Look at this model prediction. That's a big swath of snow there. All right, and we've just reached the limits. So we'll be watching this storm after storm every 4 days, moving across the country. New overnight low, minus 36.8 C. Snow and wind make roads hazardous. This is up in the Arctic, Lapland, Finnish Lapland, where everybody, it's freezing, it's melting up there, right? It's hotter than hell. Everything is burning up in the Arctic at minus 36.8 C. Yet another record low temperature for this winter was recorded early Wednesday morning at Inari in Finnish Lapland. Let's go to the global warming chart. This is the new CMIP6 data, and it suggests an extended period of solar decline extending through 2100 into infinitum, with no period exceeding the warmth that we had just a few years ago ever again in modern history. That is the most modern climate model that exists. What is a CMIP6? It's a coupled model intercomparison project. They're at the iteration 6. And in climatology, the coupled model intercomparison project, or CMIP, is a framework and the analog of the atmospheric model intercomparison project, AMIP, for global coupled ocean atmosphere generated circulation models. These are the most advanced climate models you can get. And let me just point out real quickly, the old one that included CO2 as a major factor is in green here, CMIP5. And you can see how far off this model is compared to the adjustment. Red is Satire TS, which is total solar irradiance coming from two sources. We'll get to that later in the video. But it is the actual data from magnetograms back to 1974, and then extrapolated proxy data to 1610 on sunspots. Trust me on this. I've been studying this for a long time. I know what I'm talking about. So the maroon line is exactly what happened in the past. I've labeled the sunspot numbers. I spent hours on this graph. These are the projected sunspots. The sunspot cycles in the future, starting with cycle 25, which will begin in about 2 or 3 years. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next 100 years minimum, straight down, each cycle lower, exceeding the centennial minimum, the Maunder minimum, and every other minimum in modern history. And this is simply coming from the best models that exist. Where were we Record lows in Lapland where the Arctic is melting. Negative 36 degree, the Arctic is melting. Let's talk about Davos. The global elites are battling with record snowfall as they make fun of Trump, who doesn't believe in man-made global warming because it's not true. The only thing I agree with that president. USS Little Rock, Navy's newest ship, is stuck in ice. This is tons of our subscribers are sending me all types of pictures of this ship stuck in ice. Now, this doesn't mean anything except that the descent into the grand solar minimum is faster than the government thought, because the government is well aware that we're going into a cooling period. Because if you come look at this nonsense over here, how the Coast Guard is preparing cruise missiles on icebreakers as another Cold War heats up, if you can see through the lies, because these eyes realize real lies, the Coast Guard's proposed heavy icebreaker crew for the Arctic would never be proposed if we're really burning up and the Arctic was going to be ice-free. Why would we need a new fleet of heavy icebreakers for the Arctic? Boom! That is ridiculous. People, just look at what you're looking at. It's nonsense. The Coast Guard is proposing heavy icebreakers for the Arctic. That's because Russia is way ahead of the game. They know about the grand solar minimum. They've been growing food under greenhouse cover. They know about the climate cycles. Our government is using global warming as a tool. And it's a tool that we're going to be discussing in a moment. Dangerous tool. Let's watch the erupting volcano spew lava so we can get demonetized and banned globally. This is Mayon. And it has not stopped. Over 60,000 people have been evacuated, and it continues. This is the lava fountain that we got banned globally for showing yesterday. So hopefully Euronews is not banned globally either for showing the truth about what's happening on the Earth. All the events globally that are occurring that are unrelated, that scientists all around the world studying say are all connected through cosmic ray increase. Now, if you want my theory on geoengineering, you have to stay with us in this channel, because we know that geoengineering is happening everywhere. There are chemtrails everywhere in the sky, ever increasing, but it's not what you think, folks. And we'll be discussing it just coming up on Friday on the radio program with David Dubine and Christian Westbrook as Adapt 2030, the Ice Age Farmer and Oppenheimer Ranch get together in a discussion to discuss what's happening with the Earth and the Earth changes. Now, the latest eruptions from the volcano in the Philippines are creating a zone of 9 kilometers. And now the volcano eruption in Japan that we just covered yesterday that sent 2 to 5 ton boulders raining down on skiers, which is being covered as a landslide, quote unquote, that killed that person. A landslide. Guys, you saw the video. Those were boulders flying in the air. Now, officials were up on the mountain today. 50 police officers were searching the area surrounding the volcano on Wednesday for more dead people after it unexpectedly erupted the other day. And they stopped as volcanic tremors were detected. This volcano has more to show us in the coming days, so we'll be watching it. I'll leave you links to everything we're covering tonight. I'm going to try to slow down, so if we have a problem with the audio and the video, you can keep track of what we're talking about. I want to give you this great resource, Yuki Z on YouTube. She's been covering Agung and other eruptions along the Ring of Fire, and has recently put up a multi-view of Agung, Sinabung, Stromboli, Mayon, Popocatépetl, Sakurajima, and others that she rotates around live stream with the seismic charts. It's totally awesome. So we can actually see what's happening. Here we see Sakurajima. We see some volcanic ash emissions. And just shortly. Mayon was still erupting, but it's now in cloud cover. Sinabung was erupting. So was Popo. You can see them all erupting live at her channel. So give her a like and subscribe and say thank you from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Give them a boom over here in the live chat or maybe a little donation. Because that's how we do it. We spread the love here at the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. It's about helping everyone else move forward here in these times ahead. So that's a great resource if you're totally into the volcanoes. Worldwide Volcano News Update. Volcanoes today. Mayon erupting. Here we have a live stream of volcanic ash emission. Sinabung, Sabancaya. We have Mayon with an eruption of volcanic ash cloud, unknown extent, as well as Jukono, Sabancaya and Kadovar erupting. And here they finally have a reporter up here, Kusatsu Shirane-san, or Hanshu, the one in Japan that killed skiers. So I'll leave you links to that. Let's do a quick seismic update. Very active, guys. This afternoon, we had a 6.2 pop off 92 kilometers east-southeast of Mutsu, Japan. That was followed by a 4.9 in Sinabung, Indonesia. Not Sinabung, but Sinabung. And then another bang in Kamchatka at 6.2 in a very rural place in the middle of nowhere. 38 kilometers northeast of Novarskaya, nowhere, Russia. And then we had this 5.1 in Mohina, India, just pop off as I started the video. And aftershocks in Alaska, which are numbering 300 now. And the lithosphere in the local region is also relaxing as well. Give you a close-up of some of the last 24-hour aftershocks for those that don't know how to use this software. And you can see this major event here in the tip of the Kamchatka, where the Bering Bridge here curves here, the Aleutians end. This is right where all the big volcanoes that have been going off here in Kamchatka are. So that's a heads up. We could see major eruptive behavior here in these volcanoes in the next few days because of the seismic activity we've just seen. It's pretty significant. So we have a large seismic uptick that was happening on the eastern flank of the Ring of Fire days ago, has moved to the northern flank, and is now rotating over to the western flank. There's an uptick on the Ring of Fire, and it is connected to cosmic ray flux. Don't let them tell you anything else. Now, climate change is melting pre-Viking artifacts out of Norway's glaciers, proving that the Earth was warmer in pre-Viking times. So whatever they say in that article is nonsense, because there would be no artifacts up in those glaciers unless it was warmer. You can't walk in glaciers unless the climate is warm. Trust me. I live in an alpine environment. Now, this is coming from Armstrong Economics, which is a really awesome independent source for non-mainstream thought. And now, is climate change a tool to eliminate democracy? Yes. And if you read their point of view here, it is amazing. Now, the UN has admitted it's using climate change as a tool, not an issue. It's a well-kept secret, but 95% of the climate models, we are told, prove the link between human CO2 emissions and catastrophic global warming have been found after nearly 20 years of temperature stasis to be an error. We have been subjected to an extravagance from climate catastrophists for close to 50 years. And the reality is that this is being used as a globalist tool to get you to put a barcode on your forehead. And I'll leave you links to that. We won't get into it anymore. But now scientists are warning that Plan B for climate change could actually make things much worse. Now, let's get to my thoughts on this. They've been geoengineering for decades, thinking that they're mitigating global warming, or letting you believe that that's what they're doing. Now, it's my belief that all the geoengineering since the 1950s has been well known what its purpose is for. The U.S. governments and world governments and the elites have known about the gray CMIP6 reality. The CMIP5 reality that you were spewed and given since the 90s about burning up and global warming is a fraud. And the powers that be knew that sometime after 2000 or Y2K or 2012, the Earth was going to change into the gray pattern. And it was going to trigger massive geo-effective events that were catastrophic on scales unheard of. And because the eugenics project started here in the 1950s and earlier, the global elites and those powers that be were waiting for a natural way to reduce the population. Then in the meantime, they added fluoride to the water and GMOs to the food supply. And the military-industrial complex, coupled with big ag and the pharmaceutical industry, is now driving the narrative by poisoning the public slowly, increasing the billions of dollars in the insurance industry. More people die that walk into hospitals than don't walk into hospitals. More people die that get vaccines than don't get vaccines. More people die of cancer that get chemotherapy than take cannabis oil. And these are all facts. Facts that the mainstream will never tell you. But what they are now saying is, oh my God, we fucked up. Geoengineering could potentially backfire because the truth is in. The sun, the total solar irradiance is waning. The climate is going haywire. Cosmic rays are on the increase, and the magnetosphere is diminishing on the planet Earth. The shields are down. The volcanoes are awakening as they always have. And the stratospheric aerosols that they have been spraying are now going to backfire. And even if they were using them since the 1950s as cosmic ray mitigation, it is still going to backfire. Because the albedo effect is the easiest thermodynamic variable that you can understand. Now let's talk about 3 new 2018 papers that link modern warming and past cooling periods to high and low solar activity. Just like we've been doing on this channel for the last 6 months in a very concise and cohesive manner. If you look at the temperature charts and you look at the total solar irradiance and the sun's activity, it directly corresponds to the climate changes and the empire shifts on the planet since the beginning of recorded history. Everything can be explained by the sun, including the stock market. If you haven't known, please Google it. Stock market's about to peak next year, so get in and then get out. Now here are 3 new papers I'll leave you, and we won't get into it because it has been driven into us now 370 videos in a row where I keep talking about total solar irradiance trends and how they relate to the collapse of empires. And I spent the better part of the afternoon creating this graph, which I'm going to share on Solar Shutdown on Facebook. And I'm going to link below in the description box. If you don't know where that is, it's down here below where it says Oppenheimer Ranch in the bottom left under the video. Click on the gray words and caps that say show more. And you'll get all the work I did all day. Now the Satire TS comes from Satire S since 1974. It uses full disk magnetograms and continuum images of the sun to quantify the fractional disk area covered by different surface components: quiet sun, sunspot umbra, sunspot penumbra, faculae, and network, as well as their spatial distribution. And then you add this in with the Satire T, which is extrapolated proxy data using group of sunspot numbers from 1610 to 1876 and the sunspot areas since 1876 as input into the course of the physical model. You'll get links to that. Now this is all being put into the coupled model intercomparison project, which started with CMIP1 and is now at CMIP6, which will give you the full paper of solar forcing for CMIP6, the PDF. It has everything you could ever want to know about solar forcing and how it has been being worked into the current model that you're looking at. Time series analysis, spectral analysis, Fourier analysis, coupled with real data, examples of solar cycle variability. And you're not going to be left out with this data set. If you haven't come down to the bottom here and checked out some of the TSI projections, I highly suggest you get into this paper. It is a little thick and it's hard to get through, but come look at the charts and work from there. Read what it says under the charts, and you may start to understand some of the data. It's not that difficult to understand. I'll leave you links to that. It's very important that you look at that and understand it, because it will help you understand what the mainstream doesn't understand. Let's talk about space weather and why the seismic activity is on the uptick. The phi angle has recently shifted. Solar activity has been quiet. The solar wind speed is pretty calm. Temperature and density calm, because we're in solar minimum. We're in A range. Nothing is happening on the sun. But the phi angle has shifted. We had a C flare the other day. There's been some perturbations in space, and our shields are down. And that sent us into geomagnetic instability. And above that, the magnetogram is going crazy, and we are in electron bombardment, which is coinciding with that Kamchatka event. So the electron bombardment is electrifying the planet, maybe heating up the telluric currents and causing the earthquakes to happen. Now, there's been some breaking information about the Alaska quake and the shifting of aquifers in Florida, and we're looking into it. This is amazing information, and it's going to really be a helpful predictive application to large earthquakes in the future. And we're really unraveling it as we speak. It's a heads up to some nice aurora happening up in Canada. But we are in electron bombardment right now. Radiation storm levels. And we had that Kamchatka quake. A little bit of geomagnetic instability, but nothing to worry about, because we should be in quiet. There's nothing happening on the sun moving forward. And that's a boom. Guys, I hope you got something out of the video. CMIP6 data, including the entire Satire TS data set, which is the truth. Here's really what has happened on Earth since 1850. In maroon, here we are currently live at the data point right here, which is hitting the gray mark at 1360.5 watts per square meter, which brings us back here to 1900. And as the next 2 years progress, it's going to bring us back to 1700, which is not on this graph. But I will create one. But the prediction is for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 decades, we are going to be descending into lower and lower TSI. And this is a predictive model. And this model is wrong. The angle is much steeper. So this is a rosy outlook by the mainstream for you to digest right now. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people. We're going to be talking about solutions coming up really soon. February 1st, 2018. Thanks, Dave. Studio A. 10 p.m. to midnight. Be safe, everybody.